Hey there, so today I'm getting ready to start prepping a batch of Teriyaki Sriracha beef jerky, and I figured I'd do a quick video on what I do, and yeah, hope it helps. So let's get started. So cut of meat that I like to use is a top round London broil, but really you can use anything that's on sale. Generally you want to use something thin cut and not too fatty, because fat doesn't dehydrate and it will go rancid over time. But if with jerky, once I do a batch I eat it pretty quick, so it doesn't really have time to go rancid. And yeah, and then also what I use for the marinade is I use the Island Teriyaki soy sauce. Has a good flavor, kind of a teriyaki pineapple. And then I add sriracha. Gotta have the heat. You can add more stuff like Worcestershire, soy sauce if you want, but this marinade already comes with soy sauce in it, so there's a heavy amount of salt content to cure the meat while it's resting overnight. So let's get started. Alright, so since the London broil that I bought, it's really thick, you gotta trim it down a bit, and you want pretty thin slices when you dehydrate it, so it actually dehydrates faster. I'll usually let it go for about 8 hours or so, and that gets pretty good. If it's a little thicker and it doesn't, I find that sometimes it doesn't dry out as much, which is nice, so you get still a little bit of chew. So depending on how you like your jerky, you can cut it as thin or as thick as you want. So first, what you want to do is you want to make sure any of the really big pieces of fat are gone, because those are just going to do you no good. Alright, so I went ahead and I trimmed out all of the, or most of the fatty parts, as you can see. I ended up switching out knives. My other knife was a little too dull. So what you want to do now is you want to cut it into smaller strips. You could probably thin this out. I might cut that in half, and that way, so it's a little thinner. And then you want to cut it into strips, and then you want to make sure you're cutting against the grain. That way it's not as chewy and it falls apart easier in your mouth. As you can see, not all of the fat is gone. There's still some fat left. That will be fine. I ate it so quick, it's not going to be sitting around for months, so it's not really going to have much of a chance to go rancid. So I'll go ahead and trim that up, and then we will throw it in the marinade. So as you can see, I'm cutting them into about 1/4 inch wide strips. Probably I trimmed them down to about the same height, and then they're about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 inches long, maybe 4 inches long. It doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes you end up with random pieces like that. Just trim it down so it's, cut against the grain as much, and it'll be fine. Alright, so have all of our steak cut up and hands washed. And so now we're going to go ahead and get the marinade together. So what I do is I just get a gallon Ziploc bag, and you're basically just going to take your teriyaki marinade, whatever that may be. I personally like this Soyve Island teriyaki. Trader Joe's has a similar brand called Soyaki. I'm sure it's probably the same manufacturer, just rebranded for Trader Joe's, as they like to do. I usually use about half a bottle. You basically just want enough to coat all of the meat. You're going to drain off most of it anyway after it's done marinating. But yeah, so then with the sriracha, I like to add quite a bit because I like it pretty spicy. But it's still not overly spicy. The soyaki, teriyaki, whatever you want to call it, kind of mellows it out a little bit, but it's got a nice little kick to it. I decided I'm going to add just a little bit of liquid smoke to it, and also some Worcestershire sauce. But you can play around and do whatever you like, whatever flavors work best for you. If you don't like teriyaki, you could do a mixture of like soy sauce, Worcestershire, or garlic powder, and onion powder, and basically whatever. I've done one with like a black pepper that's turned out pretty nice, but for me personally, this is my favorite. So you just want to make sure it's all mixed up first. So then once you do that, you just add your meat. Alright, so then once you got that, you just close up your bag, squeeze out as much air as possible, that way marinade can get everywhere. And you just kind of work it in, massage it in a little bit. Alright, so once you have it massaged in, you're going to put it in the refrigerator overnight. This will probably sit for, it's about 4 now, probably sit for about 16 hours overnight. Then what I like to do is just put the bag into a Tupperware bowl. That way if there's any leaks, it doesn't get all over your refrigerator. And then, yeah, we'll get this out in the morning and then pop it in the dehydrator. Alright, so our meat has been marinating overnight now, and I've already took it out and drained off the excess marinade, and that is what we have. So now I've also let it come up to room temperature a little bit, just so it's a little easier to handle, and since there's some heat involved, I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but kind of like you would cook a steak, you wouldn't just take it straight out of the fridge, you'd let it rest, come up to room temperature a little bit beforehand. So now we're just gonna place these all on the racks, and then we'll start the dehydrator. So let's go. When you place them on the racks, you want to give a little bit of room for the air to be able to circulate in between all of it, since the air is what does the dehydrating. So this was about probably 2.5 pounds of meat after all the fat was cut off. So it might take up all 4 of my dehydrator trays, but maybe it'll only take up 3, we'll see. Alright, so now we got all 4 trays filled up. We will pop the top on and let it go, probably for 8 to 10 hours, and then it should be done. But I like to set it around 125. I don't like the they recommend like 160 for the jerky setting, but I'd rather let it go a little lower and for longer. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but that's just how I do it. So we'll plug it in, and then we'll check in probably about 4 hours, see how it goes. Once they start shrinking, I might move some trays around, take a tray out, just so air can kind of circulate a little better. And yeah, should be ready in about 8 to 10 hours. So the jerky's been going for a few hours now, and I'm gonna go ahead and kind of move it around a little bit. They've shrunk a bit, and we can move them, kind of eliminate a tray, hopefully get a little bit better airflow. So now we've reduced down from four trays to 3, and so less area for air to have to move around in. So put the lid back on and let it go for another 4 or 5 hours probably. Alright, so these have been going for about 8 hours, 9 hours probably, and it's looking pretty good where I want it to be. I like mine a little chewy. I don't like it like super tough, so you could leave it longer if you want. You could cut them thinner, but that's just basic how you do jerky in a dehydrator. Let it cool down for a little bit before you bag them, and that's all. Alright, enjoy.